Comics, picture books, funny magazines, cartoon papers, coffee table books. No matter what you call them, comic books have been an integral part of many, many lives. I'd like to talk a little about why that is and why they should remain. Let's talk comics.
Quiet Red Media. Shh.
My name's Red, and today, guess what we're talking about? Bromance and why you should have one. We're talking about comic books. More importantly, why comics matter. Shut up, Gary! In today's culture, the influence can be very strongly felt. Obviously, superheroes and superhero properties have become massive media attractions. The ideas, concepts, and characters pulled from the pages of comics have dominated the media and entertainment space for years now. To someone who's been a comic fan for far longer than this relatively recent spike, it's no surprise. Comic books and the ideas within them have captivated minds, both young and old, for over 80 years, though they've been around in some form for far longer. The medium is a special thing, and that's what I really want to touch on. You see, comic books have unique qualities that have managed to keep them around to the enjoyment of millions for a very long time. I can speak for myself in saying that comic books were my first real foray into creative storytelling, both reading and writing. As a kid, I could instantly recognize and grasp the things I saw. Yes, some may think of them as crude picture books, looking at you, Bill Maher. But the reality is that comics are a valid medium for thought and social commentary, and the medium provides an element that clutches the interest of readers. The visual element. The visual element. The colors, the art, the design, all of these things can pull a person in without a word. That sort of immediate interest can spark something in a young mind that bold words alone just can't. Some people simply have a visual inclination. For a young mind, the concrete depiction of the actions and consequences of the characters can help facilitate a deeper understanding of the concepts being portrayed, and it offers an undeniable element of entertainment to both young and seasoned readers alike. It's not about being stupid or lazy and needing pictures to look at like some knucklehead. It's just a form of entertainment with its own set of offerings. Looking down on it seems, to me, to be nothing more than a pretentious flex. Plus, anyone that can appreciate art can find something to love about comics. Modern methods, technologies, and prominence have allowed for the rise of incredible artists entering the field of comic books. And amazing traditional art has always been a part of comics. Pulp art, anyone? Look no further than the likes of Alex Ross, Steve Rude, or Dan Brereton for proof of incredible modern artists in the comic space. That facilitation of understanding I mentioned is what brings me to my next thought. The breadth of topics that can be explored in the medium. Serious subjects can be portrayed in a way that reaches people who wouldn't normally engage with those topics. I can't help but feel like those who look down on comics because of the art on the pages are simply distracted by said art. Most of these people, I'd wager, are probably unaware of the themes and stories also contained within those pages. They see art on the page and they relate that to children's books. Shut up, Mom, it's for big kids! That's simple ignorance, and it may not be their fault. Many people just aren't introduced to the captivating tales that can grace a comic book page. Some may equate comic books with funnies and comic strips of old, aged gentlemen like Mar, for example. Some may liken them to cartoons or kids' entertainment, but the fact is, themes that can and have been explored in the pages of comic books far exceed simply punching the bad guy. Very relevant and very real topics are often depicted in comics. Addiction, for example. Take the Marvel Comics story, The Power of Iron Man, also known as Demon in a Bottle. This is a classic to the initiated. For those who aren't, allow me to explain. Let Daddy get his story time pipe. Demon in a Bottle is the reason for the allusions to alcoholism in the Disney version of Tony Stark, and the source of several elements from the Iron Man movies. The story ran for 9 issues and was published in 1979. It deals with good old Iron Man himself wrestling with the gripping consequences of alcoholism. After accidentally killing a man via a malfunction in his suit, another very adult theme, Tony begins to drink more heavily. He loses his position as leader of the Avengers, gets captured, and after escaping takes his anger out on Jarvis, who then resigns, driving Tony deeper into the bottle. He's confronted by the story of Bethany Cabe's ex-husband, who was addicted to drugs, ending their marriage and eventually his life. Tony has to let the walls down and allow those close to himself to help himself, basically. Her honest and caring words helped lift Tony out of the hole he'd been digging for himself. Not exactly children's book material, right? However, that's exactly what it was to many. An introduction to real-world problems and demons. Being able to show the younger audience the dangers of a crutch like alcohol, as well as the boon of friendship, love, and being open about your inner demons, is a powerful thing for such a supposed silly medium about people in tights. The potential accessibility of these lessons is part of what makes comics so valuable. As a youngster, I despised reading. It was something I was made to do, not something I wanted to do. But the pages of a comic never felt like homework or work of any kind, really. It was something I loved and enjoyed, and still do. That exposure to heroic deeds and cautionary tales was something special. The heroes didn't always wear capes. Plenty of characters in comics are heroic in their actions on many levels. Again, it's not just about punching the bad guy. Stories like Snowbirds Don't Fly and Daredevil Born Again are more examples of classic comics with a powerful message dealing with themes of depression, drug addiction, and personal redemption. It's hard-hitting stuff, worth a read for anyone who likes a well-constructed story, regardless of your stance on the medium. The themes and thoughts that can be hit on are limitless, just like in prose. But the storytelling style is so much different. The construction is similar, but the execution is much different. Think about it. Comics are written like a script. It's a visual story that plays out before your eyes. It's no less respectable than that of movies. If you can concede that a movie can be incredible, heartfelt, impactful, meaningful, and socially relevant, then there's nothing preventing a comic book from being the same thing. I've seen comic book deaths have a huge impact on the real world. The death of Captain America was one such instance. The general public was enamored and genuinely saddened by Cap's death. The death of Steve Rogers was featured in news segments across the nation. Stephen Colbert even had his shield on the set of his talk show to pay homage to the character. It was a very similar situation when Superman was killed. It was highly covered in mainstream media. The death of Superman was done in 1992-93 and is still a relevant event in the character's history. That image of Superman's tattered cape flying on a piece of rebar is iconic. Spider-Man has experienced quite a lot of loss as well. The death of Gwen Stacy, or Mary Jane, or even Peter himself are all notable comic book deaths that had substantial effects. Sadly, the quality offerings of comics have been heavily challenged by the current comic book industry. In place of real storytelling and relatable strife, many modern comics have been overrun with divisive rhetoric and poor execution, completely changing the dynamic from something enjoyable and escape to something demeaning, bitter, and simply not engaging, to me at least. It's not just about what I think though. The cyclically cancelled and resurrected titles, lackluster sale, and overall perception of comics is a very clear and demonstrable indication of a downturn. People seem to get caught up on the wrong things about a character or story in current comics. It shouldn't just be about the representation of a select few. It should be about the human condition, the struggle of life, for everyone. Heroes used to have that everyman nature. That's not seen much anymore. Now we have vapid and uninspired storytelling. There's no heart. The best many of them seem to do is poke at a hot-button topic with shallow attempts. We've already seen comic brands shuttered and the recent shakeup of the industry as a whole. It makes me wonder what's next. To be clear, not all of these things are the result of divisive ideas and politics. There's plenty of bad business decisions to blame. But those things together lead to perception being downcast and tainted. That surely doesn't help sales. These collective decisions are poised to hurt comics as a whole. I, for one, don't want that. I love the medium, and I have hopes to enter it myself. The thought of the pillars of the comic book industry crumbling around it makes me glum. I'd like to see the industry and its work survive for a very long time still. However, indie comics are having something of a renaissance, and despite what some may say or think, it's good for everyone. It demonstrates a clear interest in comics, even if the big two are fumbling things. Everyone should know that if you don't give people what they want, they'll go elsewhere. Indie creators are doing exactly that, and making books that appeal to those who feel abandoned by the larger companies. I'm not here to inject any particular lean or bias. I simply try to call it as I see it. The fact is, as I see it, people quite simply aren't happy with what's happening in the realm of comics, and few individuals of power seem to be trying to correct that. Pointing fingers and telling people that you'll drink their tears, lils, is not a good way to go about mending broken pillars. I welcome every bit of diverse rosters and new, unique, and well thought out characters and stories. The problem is that few new things are being done with mass appeal in mind. Diversity is great, but it shouldn't be the focus. That shouldn't be the selling point. Great storytelling should have that honor. Don't get me wrong, there's still some great stuff out there, but it seems to be few and far between. It all seems a bit weird. I've always known large companies and money-making entities to, want to make money. They're not doing well with that right now. The current industry is just taking stuff away and replacing classic elements and characters instead of adding to the worlds and making them more robust. That seems like a poor move to me. We all want to be happy, and plenty of people would like to see others achieve happiness alongside them. However, some just don't. It's a shame these short-sighted individuals seem to have the reins right now. The amount of people that have credited comics with saving their lives is astounding, really. Just do a cursory search for that and you'll see what I mean. I know several people who would be happy to quote a fact like that if it were in regards to a book or author. Somehow, though, comic books aren't seen as worthy to some. But when people can lend sole credit to helping them salvage and regain a life to something, anything, I think the power of that thing has been made apparent. What I'd like to see is the fantastic storytellers re-enter the picture. Those who can spin a fantastical web of unique and thrilling ideas. I would love to see truly gripping tales again. I'd love to see the comic book industry pick itself up by its bootstraps and rise out of the slump. Their sheer force of good ideas. I want to see unity. I want to see heroes be heroes once again. That's what comics seem to be losing in spades. Contention is exhausting and annoying. Let's allow comics to be a unifying force again and throw the division aside. You've got to start somewhere. With the current influence and public attention they have, I truly believe comics can be ground zero, if it's not too late.